Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Flip Genius podcast. I am super excited today for you guys to get to hear from one of my good buddies and guy that I've gotten to know well over the last year or so as we've been in a mastermind together. And he has an interesting background. I'm going to let him tell you about it. It's not coming through the traditional flipping world, investor world that a lot of us have come through, but it's a very unique background, and it's helped him to become successful in what he's doing today. So excited to introduce you guys to Nicholas Nick. Welcome.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much, Brandon. Thanks for having me, brother.
Absolutely. So Nicholas, I'd love for you to kind of start with your background. I mentioned you didn't come the traditional route to get to where you are today in the investing world. You had a little different path, and I'd love for you to kind of tell us how you got to where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll do my best to give the short version. This story can be 4 days if I don't watch myself. But yeah, so I think I was pretty lucky. And I started in the restaurant industry. Okay, 15 years old. I'm a bus boy. I ended up moving up. By the time I was 18, I was a manager, and then I managed from 18 to 30. Okay, so a lot of time going. I call that hand to hand combat. Okay, I mean, I'm in a restaurant. I'm covered in mud, maybe even poop, dude. Who knows? It's a restaurant. I mean, the restaurants were crazy, bro. Right?
Yeah,
It's like, let me tell you, 70 hours a week for 13 years. It
that's
was
great.
wild. Now, one of my secrets to success, accidental secrets of success, is I had a lot of jobs. Okay. My whole life, I've had 33 jobs. Now, I became an entrepreneur at 32. Okay. Which means between 14 and 31, I had 33 different jobs. Okay.
Wow.
Now, yeah, exactly. Yes. Wow.
You didn't
Right.
stick around with any of them too long, but the
Yeah.
manager of when you did,
That's
13
right.
years.
Well, and there was a couple of them, right? So I did stay with IHOP for 4 years and a couple jobs for a couple years and stuff. And the older I got, and the more I got. But what was important that it's like that, where those 33 jobs really helped me is if you think about it, is I ran like 30 different restaurants,
Hmm.
30 different prep cooks, 30 different systems, 30 different operations, 30 different cuisines. I learned I had this worldly perspective that we don't realize that experience gives us.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Very often, and if we've all been 9 to 5, we might know this. Very often, like the person in the company who's only worked at that job for 30 years is very often the worst person in the building. And
Hmm.
that's because they only know how things have operated their entire career within those four walls. So
Yeah.
they aren't like very creative or innovative. Me, with my 33 different systems and processes of experience, I've always been able, oh, well, over here we did this and over there they did that. And so it's kept me innovative. So
Hmm.
one of the accidental benefits to being a total flake when it comes to being an employee is you absolutely learn a lot of different systems and it keeps your knowledge very broad. So that was the first thing. That's really where my story started, is the ability to master several different systems at a time. Okay. Then when I left that career, and I left it because I could tell I was superior. I'm looking around. I mean, a lot of just so everyone's clear, in restaurants, the employees are actually the best part, and the managers are often actually the problem.
Hmm.
Okay. If you're in a bad restaurant, it's not the employees, it's the managers. Okay.
Interesting.
And so well, I say that because what strained me in my restaurant career was the low caliber of people I was surrounded by. And I don't mean my servers, my cooks, and my busboys and dishwashers. Those people were actually amazing. But my peers that I'm managing the restaurant with, one of my favorite sayings was, it takes years to build skyscrapers and minutes to knock them down.
Yeah.
I would have a great shift and lift everyone up, and sales are up, and attitudes are up, and then one asshole grumpy manager comes in and just fires two people, upsets everyone. I'd have to come back in with like a med kit and just bandage everybody up, and I just noticed I was just exceptional. So I ended up leaving that career
Yeah.
because I saw the distance between me and the next best manager, and I was right to. Ended up working for a company where they actually taught people how to invest in real estate, and I was hired to throw events. I I said, if I can run restaurants, I can throw an event. Restaurants are events that just happen for 15 hours a day, if you really think about it. And I was right. I crushed it. I threw events for 8 months. I then got hired by Dean Graziosi, and I started throwing events for Dean. And I didn't even know real estate was a business, guys. I'd been flipping burgers for 13 years at this point. I didn't know flipping houses was a thing. You think if I knew flipping houses was a thing, I'd be flipping burgers? Not a chance. But my parents weren't entrepreneurs. We'd never used real estate to make money. We only lived in it. Mortgage to me meant where you live. That's all mortgage meant to me. So this whole thing, I was like, what the hell's going on? I remember the first customer I spoke to whenever I got hired at that education company. He said, Nick, I just made $70,000 on my first deal. And I literally, all I could say was, did you know I worked 70 hours a week for 52 weeks last year to make $70,000? Did you know that? And that was my first like, holy shit, where am I? Okay. Yeah. So that was huge. And then I'm working for this company. Now, the events I threw, they were all direct mail events. Okay. And direct mail, and I'm not damning direct mail, but direct mail, in my opinion, is a seasoned investor's game. Okay. It costs a lot of money. If you don't handle those calls right, it costs even more. So having a newbie spend $5,000 in direct mail is scary, right? And that's what companies used to do. This was 10 years ago. Okay. So, hey, we'll teach you how, do $5,000 in direct mail. And it was tough, and people weren't doing that well. It was too expensive per the result is a good way for a new person. Don't forget, they just paid us $30,000. Now they're spending $5,000 on direct mail. In their head, they have to make $35,000 on that $5,000. Most didn't. Okay. Then
how did you, let me ask you this real quick. How did you get people to those events? I know you're responsible for the one setting up the event and coordinating it and getting people there so that you could sell them. What did y'all do to get people to come to the events?
So the events, these were actually intercompany events. So these people were, this event was included in their coaching product. If this was a top tier, so they had several tiers to their coaching. The $30,000 one included this event. This event was also separate, I believe, for like $8,000 if one of the lower tiers wanted to upsell into it. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. So it was a part of the sales process, but this was only for people who also paid for mentoring. This wasn't a free event, and this wasn't for outside of the event.
Gotcha.
Now I will say, to get nerdy real quick, at this event we sold everyone into another event that was $15,000 per person and only had 5 people in it, and I threw that event too. That was nerve-wracking. Again, I used to make $70,000 a year. I'm now throwing an event for 3 days that cost someone $15,000, and I created the itinerary. I created the schedule. I remember the first time I was like, Nick, this is a wedding. I was like, you're planning a wedding right now, because it's so expensive. But yeah, so it was a really cool experience, but it was direct mail focused. Well, people were going broke on direct mail and they weren't receiving a positive result. So I was like, how do we fix this? Again, I'm not thinking like an investor. I'm thinking like a career manager, like a career employee. And that's why I think you said I have a unique background. A lot of people come in, they look at everything from a real estate investor perspective. I look at it as from a customer service perspective because I spent 13 years running restaurants. It's in my heart to have extreme customer service, and one of the things I told the coaching company, so the coaching company, I took the people's complaints very seriously. Okay. I mean, think about it. When people used to complain about their $4 French fries, I took that extremely seriously. Now they're complaining about a $30,000 coaching program, half my salary. So I'll tell you, I was up my other executives' asses when someone complained to me, you know, and I took it very seriously. They actually didn't like that. The other executives didn't like that. People complain. No, this is expensive. We need to take care of them. So when they came to me, it really weighed on me. And the direct mail was hurting, so I started having everyone cold call because it was free. And it's like, hey, you can still direct mail if you have the funds. Yeah. But if you don't have the funds, you need to pick up the phone and cold call. And that's really where my whole journey started. I never cold call myself. I taught all the students to cold call. Then that was wildly successful. We shifted every program to cold calling in this company. And then when I went to become an entrepreneur myself, I was like, well, it's time for me to be the cold caller. And then I started cold calling every day. And then I accidentally slipped and fell into the $1 million business that I now own today, which we focus on cold calling and text messaging and lead generation.
Yeah, that's great. I want you to tell us more about that too, obviously. So Lead Mining Pros is one of your companies that you run now, the one that you've built. When did you start that? And you kind of told us the background of how you got there, but tell us kind of how you started. You were a one-man band and then grew to where you are now. Talk us through that process.
Yeah. So right where the story dropped off, whenever I was working at that education company, I actually ended up brokering a deal to have them let me work from home. And a part of my deal was I'll go live on our community and I'll cold call live in front of everybody every day for 1 hour. Okay. Yeah. It was awesome. And I was like, I'll demystify it, right? Like I'll give them confidence by kicking ass in front of them was my whole vision. And I did. And every day for 1 hour, I went live. I cold call. I had Mojo Dialer. I'm screen sharing. And I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm just doing it, and it goes wonderfully. People end up, within 2 months, I'm getting calls. Hey, Nick, can I pay you to call for me? Can I pay? Yeah, you can pay me to do whatever the hell you want. I'll do it. So then I'm doing all the work. I'm making it all happen. And I am, he says, and he starts paying me to do it. And then he closes a deal. Then he tells 2 people. Then they call me. And then other people call and hire me. Now I'm the only employee. I've got eight customers now. And I'm still working for this company.
Yeah, you're still doing the event for the education company.
That's right. Well, at this point, I'm not throwing events. I did skip a step. I'm now an executive, and I'm overseeing. I'm actually the director of fulfillment. Is what I am. Okay, at the moment, so that ends up going extremely well. And I'm working from home, and I sign up these 8 clients, and then one day I make a Facebook post, and in that Facebook post I say, hey, I don't normally do this, but I'm creating a cold calling company, and it's all American. It's actually all Nicholas Nick. I have no employees yet, right? But I'm like, it's all American. That day, that post gets 287 comments. Wow. Okay. Back then, this was 9 years ago. This is when I founded the business. So we've been in business 9 years now. Okay. And back then on Facebook, people just commented their email address. Is all they commented, right? So it's like, because that's how Neanderthal it was, right? It was like, we weren't engaging in conversation. They're like, send it, send it, send it. So I email everyone. The next day I wake up, I have 20 calls, I have 20 calls. I sign up 7 people. Wow. For my program, and then I call my boss and I resign because I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm going for it. And dude, the rest is history. Now that was 9 years ago. I was the only employee for about 4 months. Did all the work, created all the systems. I built. You should see. Like, I look back at who I had to be back then, and I call that my engineer phase. Okay. I'm like I made spreadsheets 9 years ago that we still use today in my business. Wow. And I look back and I'm like, how the fuck did I ever do this? Like, what? I was so meticulous back then. It was wild. And looking back at all that work, I'm so thankful for who I was then. Yeah. Because I am not that person now. Okay, like at all. I don't know if I could ever recreate this and be that meticulous ever again. But man, it's been awesome. Now I have 40 employees. We did $1.6 million in sales last year. We've served over 20,000 investors in our 9 years in business. Wow. And I've been wildly lucky to serve the community. We have 600 positive reviews. It's really just been an absolute blessing to my life and others. I mean, I get to make other people rich for a living, so it's cool.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of that, and you alluded to this when you were talking about the restaurant business, is your focus on customer service, like making sure, because we've done a lot of cold calling and SMS ourselves in our business, and We've never had a third party company that we worked with to do those for us.
Right.
It was so concerned with customer service as obviously you are in your background
That's right.
is.
Yeah. No, and I can't tell you how many people call me because now if we talk about some of the customer service that we do, that really takes it to the next level. I'd like to cover a couple things so people can see. So a great question would be, how does that customer service translate into my business today? Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, 9 years in and making money hands over fist like I have been, every year I've literally come out with some new service that's a new customer service that's free for my customers. So here's where they are summarized. So I offer a free course to everybody, even anyone watching right now. It's on my website. You can get it for free. Okay.
What's your website? Tell us your website real quick.
The website is leadminingpros.com.
Okay.
And that's pros with an S at the end. Okay. At the top, it says free REI courses. Okay. The one course I recommend is called the onboarding course. And that's for everyone. If you want to become a customer of mine or you want to work cold leads, what I focus on in that course is you converting, calling, and texting leads. A lot of people, I tell them, they go, I don't need another course. No. This is not a course. This is a master class on converting leads. Okay. Because 9 years in business, I tell people all the time, this course was created off the mistakes of my past customers, right? So think about that, right? It's like, hey, I already know what you shouldn't say to these leads, okay? And in this course, one thing I tell you, do's and don'ts. I think that's something that a lot of people skim over. A lot of people just focus on the do's. I actually tell you the don'ts because you're going to think that you should do a lot of these things seem like common sense and you actually shouldn't do them. I'll give you one real quick, Brandon. So never call a lead and address them by name unless you heard them say that name themselves. Okay? So if you get the lead from your cold caller and they said, I spoke to Bill or Bill's name is on the record, don't call up and be like, hey, Bill. Okay? That's very common. I know you think you're getting brownie points. You think you found the secret to success by calling them Bill. You haven't. Okay? Couple of things. One, maybe his friends call him William. You just lost. Hey, is this Bill? Nope. You clearly don't know me. Click.
Yeah.
Okay. And hey, what if it's his son or his brother or his father that he doesn't like? Right? So don't say the name at all. I know it's natural to want to, but don't. What we want to say what we do know. Hey, you just spoke to Sherry about 123 Sycamore Street the other day. Is that right? Yeah, I did. Oh, great. Well, my name's Nicholas. What was your name again? That's going to come off way better than assuming their name right off of the rip, right? And the reality is my course, what it focuses on is it teaches you how to get hung up on less. Because we don't realize when we call these leads, every word we use is so damn important. And I teach my clients, pretend like you're on a game show where they're like dying to hang up on you. Right? It's like, because that is they're looking for any reason to end this call. And if you give them that reason, they will. So those are some of the masterful things I teach in the course, getting you to stay on the phone and have great conversations with the lead. So that's number one. Okay. Number two is I offer weekly one-on-one Zoom calls to all clients, all active clients. Okay. Let's meet. We'll cover your campaign. I'll talk to you about your acquisition process. I'm not just a lead generator. I actually need you closing deals because I don't have contracts or commitments. So no one's ever stuck with us. Every package on the site is one and done, right? So my contract and commitment is you being happy as hell. I need you so happy you pay me again. And the way I do that is I meet with you and I actually help you work these leads. And that leads us to number 3. Everyone gets my cell phone number. If you get a lead and you're confused, grumpy, need a pep talk, need a reminder, I don't care what it is. If you need something, you can call me and talk to me about that lead, and I will absolutely give you either a pep talk or next steps on exactly what you should do to that lead. And what I've learned is, I know that sounds like craziness. A lot of people are like, how do you do all that stuff? Well, let me tell you, first of all, a lot of people don't take me up on all this. And that's not what I want. I want them to call me.
Yeah.
Second of all, my customers right now have never been more successful, and I am 100% sure that it's because they are so supported by me.
Hmm.
Okay. Even if they don't call me, they know they can. And when someone knows they can, they automatically take more action. They automatically focus on taking that action. They're not as scared. Hey, you know what? Nick's going to pick me up if
Yeah.
I fall down. Even if they don't make that call, they know I'm there for them. And that support helps them become more successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure too. If I have your phone number and have the ability to say, "Hey, Nick, I need some help. This didn't work," and I know you're going to ask me, "Well, did you do this that I told you to do? Did you do this? Did you do this?" And I'm going to say no to all those. Well, I'm not calling you unless I do all those things first, and then they don't work. So it causes me to take action and follow what you've taught me to do before I reach out to you.
Yeah, well, and just and that's actually the subtext of exactly what we do, right? I give you the keys to the castle, so that way you do know what to do. But if I never gave you that, of course you're going to make mistakes, right? If that makes sense. But what I do is I try to make all my customers watch that course. I tell you how many times to call the lead. I tell you exactly what to say, and then when we meet, I'm like, how did it go? I even give you, in my script, I give everyone for free, I give them rebuttals to the seller's objections. I give you 6 common objections the seller has, and I give 3 rebuttals to each objection. And I kind of make it look like it's easy, but guys, I've been in business for 9 years. I just gave people a script with rebuttals this year. So I know I might make it look easy when it's all said and done, but it's actually 9 years condensed into a script, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And it did take me 9 years to end up where I'm at. So, and this is why it's important to outsource. I can compress 9 years into one script that works for you. And I
Yeah.
don't even charge for that script. That part's free. But it's like I help people really understand how to work leads, because a lot of people think lead generation means mailbox money,
Mhm.
right? But they don't realize that they actually have a lot of work to do after I generate the lead. And my course subtly and nicely reminds them that they have a large role to play after I send them their leads.
Yeah. So you're doing. Before we get there, I have one question from something you said before. So when you first started on your own, your one man band, you've got 8 clients, and then you do this Facebook post, you get 7 more out of that. So now you got 15 clients,
Yeah.
and I guess they're in 15 different areas. How are you cold calling for 15 different clients in 15 different areas? How
Yeah.
do you manage
So,
that?
well, I guess that's a great question. I am such a, now let's go back to restaurants. Restaurants taught me if there's no systems, it doesn't exist. Okay. Every restaurant cooks their chicken fingers the same exact way. Every restaurant cooks their steak and their salmon and makes their salads the same exact way. And so I already know how to organize and scale. I already do, just based off of I taught people that didn't speak English how to cook food, like if you
Yeah.
think about it. So when I saw this, I think I already easily like that. I never even thought of that. But what a great question. But that never even came up for me, because restaurants naturally taught me department segmentation and organization. So I was using Mojo Dialer.
Yeah.
If someone hired me, I would create campaigns inside of Mojo Dialer, and then I would buy phone numbers local to the areas of the campaigns. So each list was named the client name, the location, and the area code that it should have been called. So
Yeah.
when you start the campaign on Mojo Dialer, you select the phone number. This was 9, 10 years ago. So it might not look like this now, but I don't think it's changed very much. I just saw the interface the other day. I'm pretty sure it's the same. But when you start a campaign, you got to choose which phone numbers you use to dial out from. So I would name the campaign all of the designations that I needed to select, if that makes sense. And then that way, inside of each one, I created what I called the cheat sheet. And the cheat sheet had the client name, the client phone number, the client email, and everything. So that way, if the person asked me more in-depth information, I effortlessly had it right in front of me without stumbling or, like you said, flipping through 15 different clients' information kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I'm sure it was a interesting time back then. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall and watch you
Well,
starting out from scratch and working through all that.
Well, just so everyone knows, you actually can. So one thing I did, I'm not even kidding. So I was a big Gary Vee fan when I was a restaurant manager. And Gary Vee always said when I was growing up, he said, guys, if I could start over, I would have recorded more. I would have recorded everything. So you know what I did? Every day I jumped on Mojo Dialer, I opened up my Zoom and I was the only person in there, and I recorded my entire session every day on Zoom.
Wow.
And then at the end of, and I, again, who was I back then? Who the hell was this person? Like, I can't, how did I know to do this? Then at the end of every day, I'm not kidding, I would cold call for 5 hours a day, and then for 2 hours every night, I would watch my videos back of me cold calling, and I would clip them into clips on each individual call. And to this day, those videos are on my YouTube. If you go to my YouTube and you actually scroll down to like 9 years ago, you will see videos of me. You will be the fly on the wall. So everyone here actually does have the option to go look at that. It's pretty cool to see. I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and watch some of those.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so now, fast forward where you are now. Kind of walk us through the process. So you do, I've done it a couple of different ways, and I think what you do is a little bit different from a lot of the guys out there that are doing cold calling and texting, but you're actually providing the data through Lead Mining Pro. So you're getting the data. Let's say for me as an example, I'm in Atlanta. Yeah. You'll provide the data based on whatever package I buy, and then you'll set up either cold calling or texting or both.
That's right.
Using domestic callers or international callers, whichever one I choose. Is that right?
That is correct. And I'll take that a step further. So let's say your next question is, Nick, how do I know which service of yours to hire? Okay, I'll give you guys that answer right now. I consider it a sliding scale. Okay, if you're doing houses and you're in a rural market, you want to do Americans and texting. Okay, rural market. A city no one's ever heard of before. It's a great example of a rural market. If someone says a city, like, what? That's a spot for Americans, okay? Then, if you're in what I'll call a medium saturated market, okay? Not a metro area, okay? But medium sat, maybe outside of a metro area, still close to one. I would do foreign callers and texting. And then if you're in what I'll call a super metro area, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, then I would only do texting. Okay. So there's a scale, right? Yeah. So and just so you know, those options get cheaper and cheaper. So that's actually the math, right? Americans are the most expensive, but in a rural market, they do the best. Right? So you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Texting always works no matter what. Our texting is killing it right now. I'm averaging a 14% response rate across all text messaging campaigns, which is like absolutely bananas. So I always recommend texting. And then it's really just which calling do we stack on top of it. Then let's say you are in a super metro and we only did texting like I recommended. It's not that we never call, but we wait for the texting results to come back. You with me? If we get a shitload of texting leads, I'm going to say, hey, we should call this list, okay? And if we get medium leads or less, I just say, hey, let's just stick to texting, if that kind of makes sense. So one thing I like to do that's different, and when you use me, this is the expert advice you get, I will tell you if it's working. And I do not sugarcoat even my own results. I'll be like, dude, these results suck. Okay, like I'll tell you right off rip. But if they're great, I'll actually tell you this is where we should go from here. So you get a lot of guidance when you use us too.
That's great. I love that. So do you use if I use your service, I know you said you guys did use Mojo. I don't know if you're still using
Call
Mojo.
Tools.
What?
Call Tools. That's
Okay,
what we use now. Yeah.
And then do you have a different platform that you use for texting?
Yes. Yeah. I actually had one created for me about 5 years ago.
All right. And is that part of your program, or is that something separate I have to line up and set up and pay for?
No. Yeah. It's all, the cool thing about my website is I have everything bundled together. So it's like really cool. I tell my clients all the time with the single button, you buy 4 services all combined. We pull the list, we skip it, we call it, and we text it. And, someone asked the other day, might even be your next question, what services do you need if you hire me? People say, do I need to have the texting platform? Do I need to pay for this? The best thing, all you need is to be organized and take action.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I do give all of my clients at least 1 month free of my CRM with every purchase, and my CRM is integrated with my lead generation
Okay.
as well. But that's only if you don't have one. Like, I'm not like, oh, my CRM's the best. No, if you don't have one, you need one, because I'm about to send you 25 leads. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can't pretend like we can be that organized, right? And so I need my clients organized and taking action. If they can do those 2 things, if I get leads and they do their part, we're going to have a great relationship.
That's great. What's your opinion on net leads versus qualified leads? Do you guys qualify them to a certain level, or are you sending me everything that somebody says, yes, I'm looking for an offer?
So we are sending you everyone who says yes, but we will ask the qualifying questions. We don't stop at yes, is the good way to put it. But if they said yes, in my perspective, it's a disservice to you for me not to send those to you, right? It's like anyone who, now here's what I tell my clients to do. And no one disagrees once they say it, right? Of course, we all want the hottest leads. Of course we do. But if there was the hottest leads, then that would be the only thing anybody ever did, and nobody would ever do anything else, right? And so there really is no such thing. So what I tell Mike, I have a couple of lessons. One is stop focusing on my notes and focus on your process. Okay, I think you can agree with that. If your process doesn't turn leads into hot leads, that is a you problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of people, hey, yeah, $50,000. No, click. Hey, Nick, your leads suck. No, my leads don't suck. Your process sucks. Okay. It's like, what are we doing? And just so everyone knows, that course I spoke about gives you the process. And that's the number one thing I realized was missing. Is again, I think in processes, like my restaurant career, my 33 different jobs. I think in processes, so it's natural for me. So when you hire me, I realized the first thing is all clients are doing all different things, even the pros, right? Everyone's doing something different, and they're all treating their next lead source like their last lead source. Okay, if you've been working PPL or direct mail, you take that exact approach and you apply it to calling and texting, you're going to fail. Period. Okay. Yeah. So you can't handle every lead like you handle every lead, right? So we have to have a strategy for each one. So those are the big things that I focus on with my clients is what are you doing on your side to convert the lead? So yeah, the question was, do we say yes and qualify them? My goal is to do both. Now I do teach my clients to grade the leads. Okay. Right. Now A through D. Right? If a lead comes in and they're being sarcastic and they say a high number, that's a D lead. I'm not arguing with you. I'll never say, no, that lead's super hot. No, I'm not. No, that lead is not super hot. But I have this really funny saying. It is, we all hate shitty leads until there's no leads. Yeah. Okay. So mark that as a D lead and never work a D lead while you have an A, a B, or a C lead. Right? And that's really, it's just about time prioritization. And then the one day you have no leads, you're like, where are all them shitty leads at that we've been sticking in the pot? That's a great day for those leads. The other thing about shitty leads is they're great practice. You have a new acquisition manager, okay? You want to gain some skills. One thing I tell my clients is the uglier the lead, the more fun you should have with it. You should be experimental. If you don't think it's going to close, don't not call them. Call them and say some shit you've been dying to test on leads. Yeah. Make it fun. Learn something. That's my strategy. If we're not going to make money, we might as well get experience.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Great idea. Great message there. So if somebody's just starting out, let's say I've never done any cold calling, never done any texting, I have no idea what I'm doing. Do you have a recommended package that someone start with? I know you have some lower cost packages, and you mentioned based on whether they're how big their market is and where they are operating. Do they text or do they call? But do you have a package that you recommend? Hey, here's where I recommend you start, and we'll grow from there once we're able to show you success.
So this is one of the best parts about using me. So I ask my clients a couple questions. One is, are you doing land or houses? We specialize in both. Okay, that's going to change my advice, right?
Okay.
The other is, what market are you doing it in? Like we spoke, you're in Atlanta, so that's going to change my advice. And then really the last one is, what is your budget? Okay, so I'll give you an example. If, let's say, so we already spoke, if you're in Atlanta, no matter what, I recommend starting with texting only. That advice will never change because you're in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's say you're not in Atlanta and you are in a more suburban market, and you probably should be calling and texting, but you say, Nick, I only have $300. I only have $500. Then I'm still going to say only texting. So the budget also has to do with it. Texting is my least expensive form of lead gen. So for smaller budgets, under $1,000, if you're like, the guy just called me yesterday, Nick, I need a closed deal before the end of the year. What's my strategy? I'm in Tampa. Okay, well, we already know Tampa, super saturated market, texting only. He wants one before the end of the year. Okay, I'm going to recommend my biggest texting package to you at $2,100. All right, he bought it, right? Now, let's say someone's under $1,000. They want to do calling and texting. I'm going to say, look, I want this to be as successful for you as possible. I know you want to do calling. I'm going to recommend texting only. That's the cheapest, and it will yield the most leads, okay, out of everything. Now, texting leads they're also the biggest spectrum. They're full of crappy leads, they're full of sarcasm, but you still get the most. And nothing shows you it's a numbers game more than texting. But I'll share this with everybody. I've met with 4 clients over the last 2 weeks that have closed deals, okay? All of them have closed more deals from the text than they have the calls, which is a reminder that it is a numbers game. And that you asked earlier about quality versus yes leads. We send over every yes. Working every lead is really the best way to just get that done. So even though the strategy that produces the lowest quality lead at face value, at the notes, right, reading over the notes, has the highest closing ratio, and it's because it gets the most yeses. Okay, so you're new, you're under $1,000, you want to call. I'm even just going to probably steer you to texting, and it's because I want it to go the best. I want you to have 30 leads for $1,000. I don't want you to have 15, and calling's a little bit more expensive, so it might chip away at that.
Yeah. Is the lead to contract rate similar between calling and texting, or are they very different?
So if you follow my process, it really should be the same. Okay. And my process is very simple. Double dial every lead every time you call them, period. Okay. Attempt every lead 8 times if they do not answer. Right? Don't just double dial. A lot of people are like, I called them, they didn't answer. Yeah, then what? Well, then I'll stop calling. What? Like, hey, we're not done here, right? We got to keep following that up. Then when we call them, we have a great script. We have a great attitude. It should be anywhere, right now, it's really anywhere from 12 to 20 leads. That's what I would say. If your attitude is great and your process is great, you're probably closer to 12 to 15. If you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, but your skills aren't super sharp, you might be 18 to 25 kind of thing.
Okay, that's great. So this question is a little bit loaded, because one of the experiences that I have, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, I know you do, but when we had lead managers, then we had 3 acquisition managers local, we had some VAs doing some follow-up. And so the comment that I always heard, and you mentioned this before, and I know you get it all the time, was, well, the leads are no good. The leads are junk. And my comment back was, the leads are the leads, right? And so I know you mentioned you get a lot of people who say, well, the lead's this or the lead's that, and you have a system to follow and a process to follow, right, to help them navigate those leads. But what is your response? What do you say to people when they're like, oh, these leads are junk?
So in my course, I've got a video. And in the video, I talk about human behavior. All right. And so I'm just going to, this is like every answer, it's going to be probably a long answer, but it's going to be a good one. So let's say a friend invites you out to dinner and you don't want to go to dinner. How many excuses are you going to come up with on why? Oh, well, the wife, the kids, the sports, the weather. You're like, okay, which one's going to work best on this guy? Okay. Here's what that means. Hey, boss, you sent me 15 leads. I don't really want to call them. I read the notes, and not a single note said that they want to sell for 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
So, these leads, they don't really look easy enough for me to work, if I'm being honest with you, right? And that is actually what they're saying. When someone is complaining, they are reading these, and I totally get it. I don't want to call the leads either. That's why I have 14 cold callers that work for me, okay? Right? You have to do the work until you can hire yourself out of it, right? I didn't want to cook or wash dishes, but I had to if my cook or dishwasher didn't show up, right? And so we have to get in there. We have to roll our sleeves up. Right? No one's making $200,000 a year doing nothing. Right. All right. They are working their ass off. When you meet people, here's the thing about people like me. When I meet someone who says they're doing $800K a year in real estate, I am like, it's like when give a great example. Oh, I've been married for 20 years. That is so easy to say and so hard to do.
Yeah.
We've all been in relationships. I'll tell you, damn, when someone says 20 years, I'm like, oh my God, how have you done it? It's the same with real estate. We don't understand how much grit it took to get to where they are. So we have to do that work, and we have to understand that, look, I understand you don't want to call this lead. People pay me, Brandon, $1,500 to get them leads, and they still don't call the leads. Dude, it's an anomaly. And some of those people meet with me and they go, oh, Nick, I went on vacation, I didn't call them. And other people meet with me and they blame me. I didn't call them because it's you, because the lead suck, because of this. And then I say, here's my rule with lead sucking. You're not allowed to tell me a lead sucks before you call it. Because you're just reading notes. Of course the notes aren't great. It's the first conversation. What are we talking about here? Like, you have to call the lead. You can only tell me that a lead sucks after you've had a 5-minute conversation. And by the way, you better have done your part. You better have had a great attitude. You better have used the script. That's a great, positive, uplifting script. If you call them like, I had a client tell me once, you know what I do? I call every lead, Nick, and I say, you don't really want to sell this house, do you? I'm like, don't say that anymore. Let's go ahead and stop saying that to people right away, but it's like they think that they're doing the right thing, but they're actually not. We need to stop shooting for no and start shooting for yeses. And it's about a mindset. Like, if that's someone's mindset, they honestly shouldn't be on your team.
Yeah. I would, my philosophy and kind of the way that I thought through the leads was, so we operate in Metro Atlanta, big area, close to 4 million properties, pieces of data that we can buy in our Metro. So, we're targeting whatever data we're going to buy. So high equity or probate or, whatever it is, tax delinquent, whatever we're targeting. Well, out of those 4 million, let's say, 20,000 of those are behind on their taxes, right? So look, I'm just picking numbers here, but there's a fixed amount of those, right? So let's just say there's 20,000. Now you give me 20,000 leads and we call through them and call through them and call through them, and we get 700 of them who say, yeah, I would like an offer. Those are the leads. So to come back and say, well, the leads aren't good, the leads are the leads. That's all there are. So everybody here is working the same leads. You can't, it's not like there's a secret. And people ask me all the time too, like, what's the best data to buy? What's the best leads? Or listen, there's a fixed amount of leads. There's only so many leads out there. There's only so many houses out there that we can buy.
Period.
Fit our buy box. and we're calling every single one of them. And the ones who are interested in an offer, we're going to give those to you. There's no magic leads. There's no silver bullet. You got to call them and talk to them. So it was always funny to me when people are like, "Oh, the leads are crap." The leads
Yeah.
are the leads. There is no difference. It's how you work them that makes a difference.
That's exactly. If your process doesn't create hot leads, it is not the leads. And I love what you said there. Let me drive that point home. I just had a great thought. I'm trying to remember it. The leads are the leads. They said,
Fixed amount, though.
yeah, that's right. Well, that's right. And they said yes to us. It's like that is all we can do. And some people will be like, what do they do? So I have so many issues. I have to find the right one in the right library in my brain. They'll come to me and they'll be like, Nick, this lead sucks. And then I'm like, okay, well, why does it suck? Oh, well, they said this. And I'm like, awesome. Then what did you say? Right? Well, I hung up. Okay, well, sounds like you suck. Right? And I don't mean to sound rude at all when I say that, and I would never say that to a customer, but people don't realize that, and this is my whole course is the number one theme is if the seller can stump you, it's okay if they stump you once. And oh, bam, it's like getting a rebuttal is like getting punched in the face sometimes. I understand, pow, oh, but click, okay, woo! I do not want to get punched in the face again. But when we hang up that phone, when we ended that call too early, it is our job, when we end that call, to research how to never get stumped by that question again. That is what is extremely important. We do not, so it's like if you ever catch yourself hanging up too fast, we have to say, well, what am I going to say next time that this is said to me? Because like you said, it's more about us working the lead, what we're dealing with. And my biggest lesson when I was cold calling for those 4 months all by myself was I did not realize how much control we have over the other person just by the words we choose when we communicate with them. Okay? I'll give you an example. We had a guy go rogue in cold calling, and he would call everyone and be like, hey, I'm sorry, I might have the wrong number, but, and then I'll be like, yeah, you do got the wrong number, click. Okay, well, we can't just say whatever the hell we want to these people and have it go the right way. And we have to also, respect that. And that's why it's always, I say, these leads suck, I say, show me your process. Show me your process and I'll show you where we can turn. And that's why what I've been doing recently with my clients is talk to me about your 5 toughest leads. And I will actually give you the language. And these have been way more productive conversations recently. I'll actually give you the language to say next time someone says that to you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, finishing up here, Nicholas, this has been awesome. Thanks for all the insight. I know we covered some of the nuts and bolts of what you do. I wanted our listeners to know, hey, even me personally, like I don't want to set up Mojo Dialer again. I don't want to go set up a texting platform and be sitting there clicking textings and responding. I don't want to do all that. So I wanted our listeners to be able to understand that really what you're offering is a turnkey lead generation service. But in addition to that, it's free coaching that goes along with it to teach us how to talk to customers, how to convert cold leads to warm leads, and how to close contracts. So we got into the weeds a little bit, but I appreciate you doing that. Yeah, how do people get in touch with you? I know you mentioned your website. Yeah. I think you even give out your cell phone number. You said, how do people get in touch with you if they're listening to this and they're like, hey, I want to do some cold calling and texting. I'm going to call Nicholas.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys 2 things right now. The website does have everything. On the website, which is leadminingpros.com, all one word. My cell phone number is on the website, so you could actually call me. That is my cell. Try me. If you call, I will answer, I promise. That's number 1. You can also book calls with me on the website, and I even have a button at the top that says follow me on Facebook. And it's not my business page, it's actually me. So you can feel free to click that as well. I try to make, my website's almost like my contact card, if you will, and it makes it very easy. But my cell phone number, so everyone has it, is 727 877-3232. And I just want to encourage everybody, you don't have to be a paying customer to call me. You don't have to want to be a paying customer. You could just call me and pick my brain. The restaurant manager in me, I just love meeting people. So you don't have to. I had a guy book a call once ago. Nick, I'm not ready to buy. I probably shouldn't have booked. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I don't care if you buy. Like, let me answer your question. Let's meet each other. Let me help you. Let me give you some wisdom, and then maybe you'll be ready faster. So
Yeah.
just so anyone who's watching, if you need anything, you could just hit me up as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for sharing. The other thing I think that's great too is that you don't have to come to the table with you with a $10,000 marketing budget, right? Like you can start small. If you're a one-man band, if you're just starting out in wholesaling or flipping, investing in general, and you're like, I want to try this. I've never done it. I don't have enough money to do direct mail. Like you said, that's one of the most expensive options. So I want to try something out. You have some packages that you offer that are smaller. Let people
85
get in.
bucks.
What is it? What's
My smallest package is $85.
$85?
$85. So like literally like change in your pocket. And that's the $85 package is 500 leads texted for you. And we also respond to those leads for free. But so a list of 500 people, if you've got a list already and you got 85 bucks, we can totally knock those out. But yeah, to your point, Brandon. And then you can also name your budget. So it's like you could say, Nick, even if it's not on the website, you can call me, say, this is how much I got. This is the service I want. How much of it can I get? So we can also customize anything. And I want to be that middle ground. I want to be that. It's like, I want to be available to everybody. I don't just want to be Rolex where I'm only catering to like one type of person.
Right. That's great. I love it. Well, thank you again for joining, Nicholas. I appreciate it. Everybody got your website. We'll put that in the notes too, phone number. So you guys reach out to Nicholas if you have any questions or want to give their texting and cold calling a shot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicholas. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you, brother.
All right.
See ya.